but I asked for some piece of business, so it wasn't just look like it was, immobile flat art, that there was some people or something. And so he would come to me, and it was like one terrible thing after another. He had a school bus go by, and everybody was mooning the camera and like every window of the school bus.
Kick it.
A Macababy's gotta do what a Macababy's gotta do. Welcome to Splat Attack, a 90s podcast honoring the slime-filled past. I'm your lover of latkes, Kylie.
And I'm your energetic, turbocharged menorah, Alex. And Kylie, are you feeling festive today?
You know me. I'm always in the mood for this season. That's what the script says.
Oh, hey, I see someone coming out of that cave. It looks like Raymie Muzquiz from he was the director of this episode. How you doing, Raymie?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Who's that with you?
This is Sandy.
Oh.
Named after Annie?
He's now it's Sandy Koufax, actually.
Oh,
nice.
Well, welcome to the show. So glad that you were able to join us for this. Thank you for coming out.
Well, thanks for your interest.
Before we get into some questions with Raymie, we're going to give a quick discussion of, a brief synopsis of the episode. The Rugrats Chanukah episode, which was season 4, episode 1. The original air date for this was December 4th, 1996, directed by our illustrious guest, Raymie Muzquiz, and written by David Sim and David N. Weiss. Very, very basic synopsis. It's Hanukkah, and everyone is off to the synagogue to watch Grandpa Boris perform the meaning of Hanukkah at the holiday fair. However, Grandpa Boris thinks he gets the main role of Judah Maccabee, but instead it's his rival from childhood, Shlomo, who got the role. The babies see Boris slam the door in a huff while misunderstanding what Boris said, meaning of Hanukkah. Instead, they think that he called Shlomo the meanie of Hanukkah. So the babies try to bring the meanie down. Meanwhile, Angelica does not want to watch the play or even cares. True Angelica fashion, she is trying to find a TV to watch the Cynthia Christmas Special, and Stu is making an electric big menorah turbocharged with lights and a spinning Star of David. A bit much, but he wants to show Dee Dee that he cares about her culture. While all that is happening, we have Grandma Minka reading the babies the story of Hanukkah, where the babies imagine themselves as the characters. And after all this rigmarole, hijinks, and misunderstandings, we have a very nice and touching ending where Boris and Shlomo sing together to close off the play and the evening in a happy note. It's a miracle.
Honestly, this one had some of my Phil and Lil back and forth because when they're the characters from the Hanukkah story, he says something, he's like, "Hail Lillian," and he says "Hail Lillian," and she says, "Hail Philistine," and it's just it's adult humor and I love it.
And we wouldn't have caught it back then. We just thought because they
No.
mispronounce things all the time anyway.
Also, I call BS that Angelica did not like latkes. Like, obviously, if she was expecting a pancake and got a latke, I can see where that's disappointing.
I think that was the thing. Was she was expecting it to be a pancake, and then potatoes, because I think she said potatoes. Who wants potatoes? Yeah, who wants potatoes instead of a pancake?
Potatoes are delicious, ma'am. You hush your little mouth.
Okay, so as far as questions for Raymie goes, how did you get involved with working on Rugrats?
It happened when I was working on The Simpsons, and I was a storyboard artist on The Simpsons. I worked on seasons 2 and 3, and there would always be a hiatus between seasons. And when that happened, we were all sent to what we would call derisively the baby show, and we'd be sent to the other building. And I mean, there was definitely a different culture there at the Rugrat building. It seemed like there was a lot of old guys that were, animation veterans, and us on the Simpsons. I mean, everybody was like in their 20s or early 30s, and and it was a pretty freewheeling culture there. It's like there was a lot of shenanigans in the hall. It's like we used to throw bomber snaps at each other.
Oh,
So I actually had storyboards that had burn marks on them. So it was, yeah. Uh, so I have to say I wasn't excited to work on Rugrats initially, but I learned to really like it because the staging that they were looking for, um, it was conducive to more creative staging. So the whole Gabor Chupa, one of the co-creators, he liked to say that he wanted to see the world from the baby's point of view. So we often had not only really low angles up, we would have like distorted backgrounds. Things would like bend and like a fisheye a little bit. So kind of what you got behind you is that's kind of an example of a child's point of view of something. Though there's no children in that scene.
no, not in that one.
Yeah, so Rugrats explored a lot of different like cultures and traditions, and honestly, I think it's one of those core Nickelodeon aspects is that we got to see different things that we weren't used to in our everyday through
Mhm.
the cartoons. Um, what was the initial inspiration behind doing a Hanukkah special?
So I was working on Duckman whenever those decisions were being made, and it was kismet. It's like I was so fed up with Duckman that I quit, and we shared a producer, Margot Pipkin, worked on Duckman, and did she? Gosh, it's all getting hazy. Was Oh yeah, Margot came in for the movie, I think. But anyway, that's not important. Um, I was offered by Margot, like just do a sidestep over to the Rugrat project, and I didn't even leave my office, my Duckman office. I was like, we just started doing the Rugrats Hanukkah, among the Duckman artists.
I gotta check something here real quick while I'm thinking about it, Kylie. I gotta see what year this came out. The Rugrats Passover
Mm.
episode, which was before this one, that was their Emmy Award winning episode.
I loved that episode.
And also in 1995, which I think was the same year or around the same time that the Passover episode came out, the Wienerville Hanukkah special also came
Oh
out.
yeah.
So I don't know if that had any play. Probably not. But I'm sure Nickelodeon was probably more okay with doing a Hanukkah special for Rugrats, especially considered one that Wienerville already did it, but two, the Passover episode was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm
I was kind of bummed that the Hanukkah special didn't get as much attention as. So it was like we were doing a victory lap and nobody was. I mean, there were accolades, but it wasn't as great as the Passover one.
but it did do well. It was very well received by audiences, but it just wasn't the behemoth that I guess once the path was laid out from the Passover episode, that it was just following through. It's like, oh, well, this thing is cool too. I don't know.
Oh, well, I looked at the Wikipedia page. I don't know how accurate it is because I wanted to refresh my memory. And again, this is stuff that happened behind the scenes. I was on Duckman and didn't know what was going on Rugrats at the time. But it did say that initially, before there was a Passover episode, Arlene was pushing for, and Paul Germain were pushing for the Hanukkah first.
Hmm.
And for some reason, as it was developing, the momentum built for Passover. So Hanukkah may have been, maybe they were hoping that if the Passover went well, it was like they had it locked and loaded.
It's very possible. I'd love to pick their brains on the subject sometime. Uh, how hands are how hands-on were you with directing the episodes? Or I should say this episode.
I was pretty engaged in it. I it's when you're directing animation that is eventually sent overseas to be finished, you have all your control is like in your drawings of your storyboard and the exposure sheets where you actually chart, how many frames of this, that, and the other. So I had all those reins, and I did a lot of drawing myself. I did design. I love the Shlomo character. I feel like I created him, but I don't remember. So I take credit for it. But he had that kind of neck that I like to, it's like a almost like a tortoise neck head, So he was really fun to draw. So the great thing about working on many of the Klasky Chupo shows is that we were really left to our own devices, and even more so than if you were on Duckman, which was more writer driven. I mean, they had writers on Rugrats, but it's just sort of like they were always moving on, or they were freelancers, and so I don't know how often. Um, I would get a script where like nothing struck me as funny, and the jokes didn't seem like they were very funny. So they didn't care if you replaced them and tried to find more visual gags to put in it. Um, and I feel like I went and rewatched the Hanukkah special today. I don't think I've seen it in over 10 years. So I felt like it had like the Duckman energy in it. Things were moving fast, and it certainly had the things. It was like it was reminding me like I'm gonna run circles around all the other Rugrat shows when I direct a special. It's like so I was using things that I learned on Duckman. So the Hanukkah special, the characters had shadows for the first time. So you'll see they're modeled better. And there was much more interplay with light, it's like when things were moody, like the custodian's office where the TV is, and then that final scene behind when the curtain falls and they have that little what would you call it? It's that's where they were reading. It's a tableau. It was like a little tableau, and it was one under one light. And in fact, that's a very Duckman thing to do is to give, there was always that noir quality where you would have like a visible single light source and everything would fall off. So these were things that were never in a Rugrat show up to that point.
And I think I have no idea, so correct me if I'm mistaken on this, but I believe the first three seasons, after that, they were just done. And then the fourth season had kind of a resurgence because I think there was a break between season three and season four, and then when season four came out, they were able to make it more polished and put a little more budget into it. At least that's from what I've gathered from
Yeah,
other.
I don't know 100%, but I know that there were more resources for the specials at least.
Yeah,
That can often happen and doesn't reflect what happens on the individual episodes. Um, so, but I do remember we did the three seasons, and then that was it. It kind of petered out, and it wasn't until it was, I don't know how long, how much time passed, but it was the reruns and the reruns and the reruns. And suddenly then it became a phenomenon. And then I think I segued from Hanukkah to the first movie.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Hmm.
I got to see when the season 3 ended because I'm curious as to the time jump. Looks like season, obviously season 4, which this was the first episode of season 4, was 96,
Yes, this was 96.
and season 3 ended in 93. No,
Oh,
94.
okay. Huh.
Wow.
Okay. So the time frame was, it was a little tighter. It it got popular in a tighter time frame. Um, I do remember at the time that there was some sort of like market research that was done on Rugrats, and maybe it was around the time of the Hanukkah special that kids more readily recognized the name Tommy Pickles over Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
Hear that? Have you ever heard that?
I think I've heard that once. I heard that with like two characters. I've heard that one with Tommy, and I've heard that one with Mario from Nintendo. Those are the only two characters I've ever heard that have surpassed recognition from kids.
Yeah, but yeah, it really had kind of captured, a lot of attention. It was super popular, and then like Mattel would come by and it started creating the toys, and
Oh
uh,
yeah, there was a ton of toys.
yeah.
Are there any particular like behind the scenes moments for this episode specifically that stood out as like memorable or funny?
Okay. Um, I thought it might be worth mentioning, it might satisfy this question a little bit, is that the vehicle that Stu drives was a car that I owned. I owned a 1971 Citroen DS21, and I would park it in the parking lot of the Rugrat building. And the first prop designer they had was just taken by it and started taking pictures of it. And it's like I wouldn't choose that car for a show because it's like it's so round. It's like really hard to draw. It's you want some nice geometry, to play with if you're going to make it turn or whatever. So but yeah, it was my car. So I felt it necessary to include it in the Hanukkah special because I by the time the Hanukkah special started, the head writers were the two Davids, and um, and they didn't know some of that arcana. And so anyway, I made it. I had the car, which probably wasn't in a lot of shows up to then. I wanted to feature it.
It's so
Love
cool.
that.
That may have been my favorite moment. My favorite sight gag of the whole thing was when they were, oh my gosh, this traffic is so slow, and the camera pans back and he's in the in the Hanukkah parade.
Yeah, that was an animated pullout, which is something you don't want to try, because it takes so much pencil mileage. But I figured out I could do it in 8 frames, and so that meant there was only 4 drawings. So it would be easy for the animators overseas to do.
Going along, because you had said that you could change lines. The writers they were pretty cool with that. Did you find it difficult trying to balance comedy with wanting to keep some really deep, meaningful, emotional moments in this episode?
Well, the Duckman part of me really wanted to make it, just keep the gags going and stuff like that. But simultaneously to that, let's see, so okay, 95. So I was married just a year before. My wife is Jewish, and so I went through the conversion process, and it was pretty fresh in my mind. So I think automatically gave it, I gave it its, the grativus,
Gravitas.
Gravitas.
There we go.
gravitas. Shoot. Okay, I use that word a lot and now I can't pronounce it.
That's okay. I can't pronounce names.
So it's gravitas, yeah. And uh, yeah, I was really taken by the history, and then the modern temple that you see that they go to for the Hanukkah, night of Hanukkah. That was modeled after the first temple that I went to with my wife, and it's Temple Menorah in Redondo Beach.
So
Um,
cool.
I feel like that gives so much weight to Stu in this episode because that was one of the things I rewatched it again today and like it's so refreshing rewatching things I loved as a kid and like especially with Nickelodeon like the layers you guys were so good at giving stuff adults wanted to watch and stuff kids wanted to watch at the same time. But like I was really struck by Stu and Dee Dee in this episode, and he was like, I just want her to know that I really care about this. Like, I want her to feel supported and that I love her and support her. And I'm like, that's a beautiful adult relationship that I was exposed to before I realized that's what I was exposed to.
And then at the same time, Dee Dee being like, I love him,
Oh
but please
God,
don't go
like,
over the
please
top.
don't.
yeah, yeah, of course he's going to do that. There was one thing that I always found interesting about the Rugrat characters is that the women were always taller than the men.
It made me feel better. I'm 5'9", so
Arlene, I think she is taller than Gabor. Um, but anyway, yeah, that was definitely something that was in the DNA of its development. So the two Davids, um, David, was it David Weiss?
Yeah, David Weiss and David Stern. Or
Yeah,
Stem. I'm sorry, David Stem and David Weiss.
yeah, it's funny. I saw his name Sten spelt out today, and I was going, I thought it was Stem, like, but it was just faulty memory. But David Weiss was like he was very devout, and I was acquainted with the area of Judaism that's considered Reform Judaism. He was conservative, so he was much more strict. He kept kosher and blah blah blah. And there's a point in when they say the Hanukkah prayer at the end. It was Boris says it
Hmm.
when the menorah is completely lit, and so he says the lighting of the candles on Hanukkah prayer, and at that David did not want to use the word Adonai in it because in the conservative mindset you only say Adonai when you're in the temple. And so you say a different word on the outside. And I was going to him saying, but then it's not realistic because in the reality of the show, they are in the temple and the reformed people don't care if you say Adonai outside of a temple. So he was very gracious and he finally gave in and we did an alternate take of Shlomo saying Adonai in the prayer.
It's cool. Small details like that are so
Mhm.
cool.
And David Weiss was also like so conservative that he didn't he initially wrote that there was the menorah used oil like in the temple
Mhm.
and the original temple, and it was like I had no experience. I never saw an oil menorah, and we actually got on a car for lunch and we went to the Fairfax district and went into like one of those Judaism supply stores on Fairfax. It's very orthodox in that area. And we found one. It was the first time I had ever seen one. And but I was like going, this is a reformed temple. It's just sort of like everybody who's watching this is going to be using candles. And so they added that little line where Shlomo says, we light the oil, and some people use candles.
Mhm.
So that little aside was because I was like, come on, you guys. Um, so I felt like it caught me at a really good time. It's like a lot of the Judaism the methodology, if you will, was fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I'm from a little pocket in Indiana where I mean, I was raised Catholic, so I didn't have a lot of exposure to Judaism, but when I first started getting it was as a small child with things like Rugrats and Wienerville and and it was just exposure to things that you didn't get in your everyday in the middle of the Midwest, and I love it for that.
Yeah, no, no, it's so cool when you can communicate different cultures and nobody's hackles get up, and especially to children, they'll accept it, it's like it's not like you're gonna make enemies, if you put a little bit, but it's like through my career, I've certainly like encountered those moments where I call them fear-based decision making. There's a project that is I'm hoping it'll go soon. It's in Britain, and it involves a family of Pakistanis that live in London, and there was some funding issues, so they had to bring in some additional money people to help, with the budget and distribution. And when I was talking to the producer last week, he told me that some of these outside producers are asking for it to be less Pakistani and that there be no Muslim religion referenced in it. And I'm just going, my God, it's just sort of like, then it's going to just be vanilla. So, yeah, so it's like, I'm still fighting those, same battles.
That's ridiculous. All these years later.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Hmm.
So Rugrats is obviously very nostalgic for so many of us. Um, do you have a favorite memory or moment that stands out for your time on Rugrats?
The first season that I worked on Rugrats, I was in a little cube, and and all of us artists would have a mirror on, in front of us, our desk, so we could make expressions. I need it all the time just to draw hands. I have to like model for it. Um, but where my position, and I had the mirror in front of me, I could see like up some stairs into the second floor landing, and that upstairs was where I mean, the executive producer Arlene had an office, Paul had an office, and then there was the recording studio in the corner. So whenever we had a recording day, we would I would see, if we had a special guest star, or I mean, the whole cast would be going up and down the stairs. Um, but there would be a moment like Charles Nelson Riley was doing a voice, and he, as he came out, he just stood on that landing, and the stairs opens to this huge, it's like an airplane hangar, with all these little cubes in it. And then, he just started singing, it's like up there. But I would see Alex Trebek, Adam West, and then of course, our usual cast. But one day, it was EG was up there, and she was coming down the stairs, and I knew, hey, I have a cousin, he's got kids, it's like, can you sign something I have of, I forget what it is. It was a cell or a drawing or something. So, she was kind enough, she didn't mind doing that. So she comes up alongside of me and starts writing on the desk in front of me. And when she did that, I realized that she didn't have her shirt buttoned, and she's leaning over like that. And I have one of her breasts is like 3 inches from my eye, and it's like I was hypnotized, and I'm staring at that, and she's doing her writing, and then she turns her head to look at me, and suddenly I go, oh, I got it. I just got caught. And she looks at me and doesn't change her expression. She just says, "Are there two M's in Tommy?"
The answer is yes. There are two M's in Tommy. Thank you.
Many M's in there you want. We also had, Duckman would record in the back of the hangar. It was like You know, it's kind of a side story. When I would work at Duckman, I was directing episodes there, and I'd have to attend the records. I didn't have to attend the records for Rugrats because until the Hanukkah special, I was just a board artist. But so we built another bigger studio in the way back, but it was essentially like it was like a storage room. You know, it had a big roll up door, you know, that you could back a cube van into, and it was just like stacked desk chairs and just anything that they were working on, like you know, old music video, you know, back what do you call it? Flats, wall flats, and stuff like that. So it looked like hell, you know, back there. And you know, we would have like you know, like Marina Sirtis would come in, you know, to record for Duckman, and me and a couple buddies, you know, who were huge, you know, Next Generation fans, you know, we made sure to pull some chairs from that pile and sit there and wait for her to come in. And you know, and when she does come in, I can see on her face like, oh my God, I might be assaulted in here. You know, it's just like because the place looks like, you know, like a drug den or something. And I mean, it is lit with fluorescent lights. But anyway, it was just
The
sort of like,
most flattering of lights.
yeah. But she was I could just see how scared she was, and it made me think, gosh, you know what? I bet there's a lot of voice talent that come in, and when they're told to, you know, go through that door, and that's the recording studio, and instead they walk into this warehouse, that they're scared by it. And then there was a time when we recorded James Brown, and I was working in my office in the main building. So I think I might have been on Hanukkah then. Um, but James Brown would not come to record unless you literally blocked the whole street off. So you know, we're on Highland and Fountain, you know, in the middle of Hollywood, and I'm looking out my window and I see cops on motorcycle cops everywhere, and they're stopping traffic, you know, a block, you know, on each end of our studios, and we're two buildings, and then in comes the limousine, and that was James Brown, and James Brown had to walk through the entire Rugrat, you know, cube area to get to the warehouse, to get to the recording studio. But it was like such hoopla, and it's like I remembered a lot of stars would walk by. You know, I ran into Kathy Ireland, and I had like hello, and she was very nice and said hello back, and but that would happen really often because there was so much cross traffic between Duckman and Rugrats at that time.
You had mentioned this was the first episode that featured shadows and really play with light, and also you mentioned the pull away. Was there any other new techniques that were used for this episode?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, again, it's like I learned to stage from my first season on Rugrats. What was it, you know, how you could imitate lenses of the camera the way you drew, you know, if you're going to warp the ground and stuff like that. And I have still to this day I have a great love for really low horizon scenes, you know, so you can see the people's feet on the you know, the cartoon characters feet on the ground. For some reason it makes them more real to me, like if you know, if they're actually occupying space where they're making contact with it, and it's not just like, you know, a vaudeville curtain behind them, you know. uh so I did I learned that in Rugrats, and I really wanted to, and I took it to Duckman, and then I think it like kind of evolved. So not only would I do low angles up, I like to, instead of like just cutting from scene to scene, is like make one shot another shot. So I think, I mean, there's a lot of terrific examples of that in the Hanukkah show where, it's just like there's one configuration of actors and they have that moment and then short pan, a character turns or something like that. And then you're into a new little scenelet, a new beat. So I found that I like that more than cuts, which I think cuts are really overused in animation, and close-ups are really overused in animation. So I like to make them seem like they're actors in a space. So I use looser shots, um, and connect shots. So that was something uh, that I got from Duckman that I brought to this, and I don't think they didn't really do that on Rugrats
Mhm.
proper. And then another thing that I did is I didn't know I did that until I watched it again today. Is I put a rack focus shot in it. The ham actor that's wants to sing Hamlet or something. There was some exchange like in the wings, and I did a rack focus. So the actor in the foreground went in a soft focus as I think it was background. So that I don't think that was had ever been done in a Rugrat show.
Really making it feel less like animation and more like, what if a camera was put in here for real and how would we shoot it?
No, yeah, I mean, I really, really, really wanted to be as cinematic as possible. And yeah, so I very much had that mindset to the point that I think that it like really kind of was making me crazy. And I've learned to kind of let go of that in my later career.
Gee, I wonder why they had you do the movie.
Well, I was the director. I was just a sequence director on that.
But still, they had to have you involved.
Yeah, and then I made sure that the Citron was in the first movie.
Did you find that there were any particular like challenges during the production of the holiday special or just kind of in general with like scheduling or creative obstacles or, trying to like we talked about, the Passover special was first. Like, did you feel like you were having to like meet extra expectations that you didn't expect?
Well, nobody came to me and said, make it better than the Passover special, or even like, make it like the Passover special. I thought it was fine. I thought it was more workmanlike and more in the regular Rugrat, style. Um, and uh, and we were certainly, we had a fairly tight schedule, but I don't remember being being stress inducing. I think we were doing pretty well. You did jog my memory though. I was working with an artist for the first time, Ira Sherrick, and he's now directing on Futurama, but he was Jewish. I wanted to have him on, the show, and he loved to just like do the most inappropriate drawings for for especially this show. So in a section that begins the Hanukkah party, where they're serving the latkes and
Mhm.
they got the guy in the dreidel suit and stuff like that. We wanted to have the establishing shot of the temple, but I asked for some piece of business so it didn't look like it wasn't just look like it was immobile flat art, that there was some people or something. And so he would come to me and it was like one terrible thing after another. He had a school bus go by and everybody was mooning the camera and like every window of the school bus. And then and it was like, haha, it's like go try again. The next time I get the same shot, he has like an open topped, third 1930s Mercedes going through with Hitler doing this. going by.
This is Alex. This
Yes,
sounds like Alex.
that's absolutely something I would do.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Haha. Yeah. Go and try again. And for some reason, and it's like the more I think about it, I feel like somebody had it out for me. Somebody made sure that the executives of Nickelodeon, who were in charge of the show, saw that picture of Hitler
No.
in front of the temple. I mean, like I think worse, on this special than have that storyboard show up on your desk. So I had Margot come to me, one day, and she goes, "Oh, New York is really, really upset with you." And I was like, "What? Why?" Well, they don't want that shot where Hitler's in going in front of the temple. That's not. He's telling me oh, how inappropriate it is, and it's just sort of like, well, why the hell did that get to them? It's just like they're across the country. Like, who sent that to them? And so somebody must have had it out for me because it's like that. It was because we started in The Simpsons and Buckman was like kind of really rude. It's just like we often tried to shock each other with how low could we go,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
and to the point where oh shoot, I have a desk in my office that's identical to the one I had at Klasky. This is called a filmation desk, and they were made in the era of filmation, their cartoons.
Yeah.
It uses this, I got a disc, and it's on a box that has fluorescent tubes in it, you turn it on and get your light. And then you put your paper on it, you can see through it. This is all pre-digital. I haven't worked on paper for God, 10 years. But anyway, so we would regularly, and Ira loved doing this, is that you go in the morning and you turn on your light box, and he's put a photo or a drawing underneath the disc, of like an ass uh, or other genitalia, and that would be and that would be the first thing you saw in the morning.
Yep. I would absolutely do all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that.
So I did finally talk to the executive. I wish I could remember her name. She's one of the names at the end, like supervising producers from Nick. Um, but anyway, I had to have a come to Jesus conversation with her, like saying, "Look, it's just sort of like that. Just it slipped out. I tell you, I hated it as much as you did." And and it's just like then I had to like do the like it's like I'm married to a Jew. I've gone through the training to be a Jew. I've just had a son. We've had him, we had a bris. It's just sort of and it's like finally she like calmed down. But to this day, I don't know why the hell that ended up going to New York. I mean, especially at Duckman, it's just like the things that we would draw.
Oh gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, my my face hurts from laughing and smiling too much at that. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah, that's Alex shenanigans.
Oh yeah. Alex, don't do this thing. Okay, and I'll find a loophole and make it worse.
Yeah.
But for Rugrats, because you had said that you took a lot of Duckman and put it in this episode. During your time at Rugrats, is there anything that you've learned, or is there any takeaway that you got that you've carried with you for the rest of your career?
Yeah, it would be the staging, the freedom that we got from staging, because it's like I only knew I was trained to be in live action film, and and the storyboards that I did originally were for live action, which is like it's a completely different beast, from animation storyboarding. And then when I went on The Simpsons, the thing that was kind of innovative about The Simpsons is that it was visually, the shot choice, the angles, the cutting of it, it was like very much like a situation comedy, that would be a filmed one, not a videotaped one. Um, so I kind of had that mindset that, camera, eye level, that standard, wide shot, medium shot, close-ups, and kind of thing like that. And then when, it's like Rugrats got sold, we had seen the pilot many times, and that was like, Peter Chung did that, and it was it's like so low to the ground. It's like I think the kids' heads were like, pushed against the floor at times. But it's like, I mean, it just kind of blew my mind. I mean, I knew that kind of you could draw that way, but I didn't know you could do that like kind of in series television. And so when I did work on it, I really wanted to push perspective and, do that warp I was talking about. And then I came to like absolutely love like shots that are kind of below the belt line of, your characters, and you're kind of looking up at them. So I credit Rugrats for that. And then because the writers weren't, strict, they weren't, they weren't hyphenate producers like on so many shows where they really want to control, when it goes into storyboard and animation and such. Um, it was like wide open. If you wanted to spend the time to make, um, to create more gags, really stage the heck out of something, it's just sort of like there really was nobody that would tell you no.
I love it. And then
Yeah,
I've heard that a lot from a lot of people who worked on Nickelodeon in the early 90s, was that they were just given freedom to do their shows and have their vision.
yeah, yeah. No, they seem like they really wanted individualistic kind of,
Yes.
shows. And I also worked on Hey Arnold, and that, that had a whole other kind of ethos.
Well, we have pretty much exhausted our interview with Raymie, because he's given us so many great stories, but we're not done with him yet. We do have more episode to cover, so we're gonna take a bit of a break. We'll probably go light the next menorah, and we'll be back in just a few minutes to see what else is going on in the world of Splat Attack. So stick around.
Hold on, Rugrats will be right back.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Splat Attack. If you are enjoying this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe, make sure to hit that notification bell. If you are listening on a podcast app, please leave us a review. These very simple actions for you help others find the slime-filled past. It's the holidays, and it's a good time to be with ones that you love, which is also what we love to do over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/splatattack, where we get together with our gakoids and have slime streams twice a month, early access, bonus content specifically for them. So head over to patreon.com/splatattack. In the Hanukkah special, the Rugrats had to dress a very specific way, and you can dress however you want by checking out our bonfire page. Go to bonfire.com/store/splatattack store with hyphens in between to check out some of our Splat Attack nostalgic love in attire form, or even some coffee mugs. So again, bonfire.com/store/splatattack store with hyphens in between.
Tune in next time, Slimesters, when we go into Bluffington through Nickelodeon and another dimension into Disney, as these two Christmas episodes go head-to-head in this Versus episode. You can catch all the retroific fun on Splat Attack.
You're watching Nickelodeon. And now back to Rugrats.
Welcome back, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed our commercial break, as brief as it was. We try to make them fun. If you guys skip the commercial breaks, go back and watch them. We like to have fun with them. I swear one of them I just threw in Manny playing with a Buddha at one point. But a very quick discussion. We're gonna give a very brief review of the episode. So Kylie, I'm sure you already know how this goes. We'll do like a report card, A through F, and S double S triple S. What is your review of this episode?
I'm I'm gonna give it a B. I really liked it, especially revisiting it today. Like I caught a lot of things, and definitely after talking to Raymie, um, it was very different. And now knowing that, I pick up on it. Um, but I didn't love it as much as some other specials. Still, quality special, just not my favorite.
I'm gonna give it an A. I really enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed the relationship between Shlomo and Boris and how they actually had a
Yeah.
real adult moment in a kid show where you got to see the adults have a reconciliation moment that wasn't instigated by somebody else. They didn't have no one else went up to Boris like, okay, you need to calm down. Or the same with Shlomo. They learned about each other in a very real human moment. And and I love that even though Tommy was just trying to here we'll give him a bedtime story so that way he'll fall asleep. But it's so cute and it's so sweet when he's just trying to get Shlomo to read this story, and Shlomo, who's not used to kids, Boris is he wants you to do it, and so he's reluctant, but he does it, and it's such a sweet moment, and I really love that, and I do love the push that Raimi was talking about earlier, how trying to make this look more cinematic. I always love shows that have a big cinematic feel, and some of the cutaway
Yeah.
jokes in this, like the explosion in the basement when you see the door pop open.
Yeah, it like bows out and comes back in.
There's so many good moments in this, and it is a classic for very good reason. And I love this episode. And if you have not checked it out, check it out. Obviously, you've got the whole series on DVD, and right now the whole series is also out on Paramount Plus. But before we go, and while we've got Raimi with us, we have to have our segment for the episode. So Kylie has put together some quotes for us for Say What. So let's get started.
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
Say what?
So for this segment of Say What, since we've got Raimi here, we'll see if he can recall who says these quotes. And Kylie came up with these. So Kylie, I'll let you take it away.
I kept him easy, so this shouldn't be hard, especially since you watched it today too. So the first one is, look, Tommy, a whole book about Play-Doh.
Oh yeah, that was Chucky. And
Yeah. Again, adult references. They're so good.
Mhm.
The second one is, it's a synagogue, Hanukkah boy.
It's a synagogue, Hanukkah boy. Was that Shlomo?
No,
No.
that was Grandpa Lou.
Oh,
That-
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
when they're
was-
down in the basement.
Yeah, Didi, you go on to the church. It's a synagogue, Hanukkah boy.
Yeah. Okay. I often forget that Grandpa was part of this. It seems like it was much more of a Boris Minka thing.
Yeah.
Hanukkah is that special time of year between Christmas and Misgiving when all the bestest holiday shows are on TV.
That's Angelica.
She also has, to this day, I still remember that line every time I think about Rugrats, is when they're first talking about Hanukkah, and she was like, you have to
How come
Have
you
to
didn't
do
type that
the-
one in?
because I couldn't type it. It was hard. Phonetics, I don't know. This one was maybe my favorite quote from the whole episode that I did not get as a kid was, oh, tell me when it's over.
That sounds like a Chucky too.
No, that was a Dee when when he starts to pull the menorah on the stage.
Sure. Oh my God. You know, it's like that. Wow. Okay, so I'm having a flashback when she said that. That drawing of Dee Dee made me go, oh wait, that's a Norton drawing. So one of the original directors is Norton Virgin, and he has such a beautiful style of drawing. But when he draws the Rugrats, they always seem to be kind of tilted, and
Yeah,
he,
she's
and he's
like,
doing that moment,
yeah,
and it's suddenly like, I mean, all I had to do was see that shot, and I was going, oh right, Norton worked on this show.
That's
love
so cool.
that. All right, we just have two more. The miracle is these things have clogged our people's arteries for 2,000 years, yet we survive.
Boris.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then this one, which I did mention earlier because, again, it touched my heart. I know Pop, but I want Tommy to be proud of his heritage. Besides, I want to show Dee Dee I'm really supportive of Hanukkah.
That would be Stu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read it in the Wikipedia that the JDL or the Anti-Defamation League. I forget what anyway. They hated the portrayal of Elmo and Boris, and they complained to the head of Nickelodeon at the time, Albie Hecht,
Mhm.
and then I think Herb Scannell agreed with them, and Herb, he was Jewish, and he didn't seem to mind, but I was completely unaware of that, or completely forgot anyway.
Mhm.
It's too bad. It's too bad they would say that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I go back and watch from my childhood and I'm like, oh, like it just puts a bad taste in your mouth. But I've never had that from the Rugrats or
No.
the Hey Arnold episodes. Like, I've never had a moment where I'm like, oh, that wouldn't go well. Like, I always thought things were done really carefully and really lovely.
Yeah, and I see Gabor Chupo in those characters.
Mhm.
I mean, he's from Hungary, and these are the kind of like old world people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has honest roots.
Yeah, the fact that there's so many people who experienced this and wanted to give authenticity to this. This is how these characters are. It's
Yeah.
not a stereotype. This
Right.
is how it is.
Right. Yeah.
But we were saying earlier, one last thing before we go, that there was a ton of Rugrats merchandise, and I'm very proud of the fact that I have one of the Rugrats Hanukkah books.
Oh, I love it.
You know what? I had a version of it, but it didn't have that art. That art actually looks good. There was one I found. The art was so bad. I was just like really embarrassed. But it was like that kind of format, a little soft picture book.
Mhm.
Can I see it again?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's like it's drawn like in a Golden Book style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Let's see if I can get the back here. So
I'm pleased that there was another version of it, because I thought, shit, they're giving it short shrift because it's Jewish or something like that. Thought I had.
this is relatively new. This came out in 2021.
Oh, okay.
So it's fairly recent. This came out like the same time when a bunch of the other pop classics were coming out, like books like this on like Home Alone and Elf and other things like that. There's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer one, Kylie. I need to find that one for Megan.
Yeah.
But that is all we've got for this episode. So thank you so much again, Raymie, for taking the time to come out and share with us these great stories. They were so cool. I truly appreciate it.
Oh yeah, sure. No. It's fun. It's fun to go down that nostalgic path. It's because I hadn't been thinking about this for ages.
Yeah, you just keep on going and move on to the next thing, because there's always tomorrow. But
I have to say, like post-COVID, that kind of culture that we used to have in an animation studio seems to be gone for good. It's like everybody's working remotely, and it's like, yeah, it's really sad. I feel like I'm right on the cusp of retirement. I might be retired and I don't know it yet, but but it's like it's just sort of like it's just sort of like I got to live through that and right to the end. So I guess I'm grateful for that. But yes, it's going to be hard to have those kind of stories.
Interactivity. We need it.
Yeah, that's right. Community.
Well, that is going to be it for our episode. All of you Slimesters, very grateful for Raymie for joining us. Thank you so much and sharing all these wonderful stories. But we do have our closing question for all of you Slimesters out there, and our closing question is, what are your favorite holiday traditions? You can write to us via email at splatattack2021@gmail.com. You can DM us on all of our socials. Just look for @SplatAttackPodcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's just a push. It's just a button push. Even on the mouse or on the touchpad. Do it, please. We want your love. Love us, please. Interact with us wherever you can. I promise we don't bite very hard. We don't drop blood.
Well, speak for yourself.
But Kylie, will you help me clean the studio, please? I've got to clean up all the oil and grease from the latkes before our electric menorah catches on fire.
Aye, co-captain. No need. Allow me.
Oh, well, that clears up everything. Well, Kylie, you want to chill and hang out at the studio? I think Jordy designed an awesome roller coaster, and the best part is there's no lines.
Sign me up. Splat you later, Slimesters.
Splat you later.
This episode was recorded at Splat Attack Studios in virtual home studios, though none in Florida.